The tension crackled the moment she stepped into the living room in those silky navy blue pajamas, her figure outlined like a forbidden fantasy in soft fabric. I didn't mean to stare, but I did, too long, too obviously. Her eyes caught mine, sharp and curious, and when she asked, "Do you always look at me like that?" Something in her voice made the room feel smaller, hotter. I swallowed hard. Then she slowly walked over and closed the door behind her. That simple action held a weight of unspoken danger, of possibilities I never imagined, and that night, her pajamas became more than just a distraction. Please don't forget to subscribe and comment. It all started during the last week of summer vacation. My best friend, Tyler, had invited me to stay over for a few days before school started again. His house was always calm, and his mom, Danielle, was nothing like the other parents. She was cool, stylish, and carried herself with a grace that made her stand out in every room. She wasn't like a typical mom. She was confident and magnetic, and lately, it had become hard not to notice her. I was 19, and that line between boyhood and manhood blurred more every day. Danielle had always been nice to me, treating me like one of her own. But this time, something was different. Or maybe it was just me who was different. Tyler and I had spent the whole afternoon in the backyard working on his beat-up car. By evening, he was exhausted and went to bed early, leaving me alone in the living room. I flipped through TV channels lazily, trying not to think too much about the way her voice lingered in my mind whenever she said my name. Just as I was about to call it a night, I heard soft footsteps behind me. When I turned, there she was, Danielle, in those pajamas. They were navy blue and clung gently to her shape, the fabric catching the soft lighting of the hallway. Her hair was tied up messily, and there was something casual yet completely intentional about the way she stood, leaning slightly against the doorframe. "You're still awake?" she asked, her voice a little husky, like she'd just woken up from a dream. "Yeah, couldn't sleep," I said, trying to keep my eyes on her face. But I failed. I looked. And she saw me looking. Her lips curled just slightly into something like a smile, or maybe it was amusement. That's when she asked it. "Do you always look at me like that?" My heart slammed in my chest. My mouth went dry. I should have laughed, should have brushed it off, should have said something clever. Instead, I stared. She stepped into the room and reached for the door, slowly pulling it closed behind her. The click of the latch echoed a little too loudly in the quiet house. Then she turned to face me, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "You're a good kid, Josh," she said, walking over and sitting on the edge of the couch, just a few feet from me. "But sometimes you don't look like a kid anymore." Her words hung in the air, heavy with something I didn't quite understand but couldn't ignore. I could feel my pulse in my neck, my wrists, my fingertips. She looked at me like she was testing something, like she was searching for a reaction, maybe even a sign. I shifted on the couch. "Danielle," I said, barely above a whisper. She smiled, as if hearing her first name from my lips pleased her. "You can't sleep either?" I shook my head. "Not really." She tilted her head. "Why?" I hesitated, then gave her the honest answer. "Maybe too much on my mind." "What kind of things?" she asked, her voice soft and curious. I glanced down at the floor, trying to organize the chaos in my head. Things I shouldn't be thinking about. Her eyes never left me. "Like me." I looked up, startled. That wasn't a tease. It was a challenge. I couldn't lie. I didn't say anything, but the silence said everything for me. The room felt smaller with each passing second. She leaned back against the couch, pulling her legs up under her, and I could hear the fabric of her pajamas whisper as she moved. She wasn't doing anything inappropriate, not technically, but there was a storm of suggestion in everything, from her tone to the slow, deliberate way she looked at me. "I'm not blind, Josh," she said finally. "I see how you look. And I'm not sure if I should be flattered or worried." That made me sit up straighter. "I would never do anything to disrespect you." Her smile returned, softer this time. "I know that. But temptation isn't about disrespect. It's about being human." That word, temptation, landed like lightning. I didn't know what to say. I just kept staring at her, hoping something in my silence would explain what I was feeling. Danielle stood up and walked over to the window, pulling the curtains slightly to the side to glance out at the moonlit backyard. "Do you ever think about what happens if we cross lines we're not supposed to?" she asked, her back to me. I stood too, slowly. "All the time." She turned her head just enough to see me over her shoulder. "And what keeps you from doing it?" "You," I said. "The way you carry yourself. I don't want to ruin that." She turned fully to face me. "What if I told you that I think about it too?" The air changed. It was like gravity had shifted. I felt it in every part of me: curiosity, fear, desire, confusion. All of it swirled together like a storm ready to break. She stepped closer. I didn't move. "I'm not going to do anything I'll regret," she whispered. "But that doesn't mean I don't feel it." That sentence hit me like a wave, honest, raw, and full of the tension we'd both been trying to deny. "I should go to bed," I said. "You should," she replied. "But not because you're afraid." "No," I said. "Because if I don't, I might not be able to stop myself." She nodded. "Then good night, Josh." Her eyes lingered on mine for a second too long, then she turned and walked away, her figure disappearing behind the hallway door. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed thinking about every second of that conversation. Her words, her look, the way she had closed the door, like we were sealing a secret between us. The next morning, things were normal again. She was in the kitchen making breakfast, laughing with Tyler, her hair tied up, her smile warm. But her eyes found mine once, just briefly. And when they did, I knew something had changed. The rest of the week passed with polite conversations and careful distance. Danielle never brought up that night again, and neither did I. But that look in her eyes every now and then said it hadn't been forgotten. Tyler had no idea. I went home at the end of the week, but something about Danielle stayed with me. Her voice, her eyes, the way she had made me feel without touching me, it lingered. A few days later, I got a text. "Danielle, I hope you're doing okay. Just wanted to say, some distractions aren't always a bad thing." I stared at that message for a long time before replying. Some distractions are unforgettable. She didn't text back. And I didn't expect her to. But from that moment on, I knew the tension between us was real. It wasn't just in my head. It was dangerous, unspoken, wrapped in the shadows of that late summer night. And sometimes the memory of her pajamas, how they caught the light, how they clung softly to a woman I shouldn't have seen that way, was more powerful than anything else. Because sometimes, distraction doesn't fade. It waits, quietly, behind closed doors.